All right, a good Tuesday to you. Thanks for checking out the Fox 26 Tropical Update. I'm meteorologist John Dawson. We're here every day of hurricane season, bringing you the latest of what's happening. And we've had a quiet stretch for the end of July. Obviously, we started very busy with Hurricane Beryl, but it got quiet after that. But things are waiting now for that next development. And it looks like this is where we're going to be seeing this. Well, this is where the disturbed weather is currently located out in the Atlantic, but it looks like it's going to wait a while before it can actually develop into something. There's a lot of different factors that are kind of involved in this process, and it'll kind of lengthen out this development time before it can actually kind of have the opportunity to become an actual tropical system. So if you look at our orange shading here, this is the area in which we could see something form in the next 7 days. And you'll notice the National Hurricane Center is saying nothing is expected over the next 2 days. So really what you need to do here is kind of think of this as a progression. And as we move through the next couple of days, nothing happening. But by the time we get to day 3 and day 4, something could be happening along here. Day 5 and 6, somewhere in here. Maybe 6 and 7 if it takes a little bit longer to actually get that development along a little bit further into the opportunity. So generally speaking, it does look like the most favored conditions, the most favored time frame would be sort of the Bahamas on Friday. I hope nobody's planning to go there for the weekend, because that's kind of what we're looking at. And it's not looking like it's going to be a monster hurricane or anything like that, but it could be a tropical depression or a tropical cyclone of some kind by that time period. So that's the big summary for you. Let's sort of dive into things a little bit. I'm going to show you the American model to begin with. This is one that is a little less convinced that we're going to get something out of this disturbed weather. You'll notice we've kind of got it sort of drawn in here where that disturbance is as it moves through time. Going across these islands like that is very difficult for a system to develop. Now, if it's already a tropical cyclone, it can sometimes hold itself together a little bit better. But the actual development of something as it moves across these islands that are very mountainous like that, it's just not something that's going to happen real quickly. But the GFS does sort of make it want to be a weaker system and maybe even kind of get it to sneak into the Gulf of Mexico just a little bit. And the European model is somewhat the same in the fact that it doesn't look very aggressive, but it kind of leans a little bit more towards the Atlantic and the Florida Peninsula in general. So you'll just see this large batch of moisture trying to get some sort of organization to it. And finally we get into near the Bahamas, and you can see just this attempt to get a little bit of rotation going here. This is actually stopping on Saturday, but this is kind of that area where something would be if, in fact, it were to develop into an actual cyclone. And generally speaking, as I've shown you those different opportunities, a weaker system ends up going a little bit further to the west. A stronger system most likely would end up going a little bit more into the Atlantic to the east. And then, that, again, the timing on when it develops would also maybe help with some of that steering. If it was to develop later, it would probably end up more in the Atlantic side of things overall. So still so many questions to kind of be aware of. For us folks here in Texas, and I know not everybody watching is from Texas, this is not something that we're super concerned with. Now, if you're in Louisiana, okay, we're watching things still. Let's watch how this develops. It's going to take a while, but certainly going to be something that we're going to keep an eye on. As we move over, if you're in the Florida area, yeah, you're checking on this every day. And then if you're up along that eastern coastline up through the Carolinas, then you're, again, maybe not quite as concerned, but you need to check in, make sure this thing is still doing what the expectations are, because as we know, modeling this far out is not going to be very precise. And with the factors that are involved here that help, really help to not form, that make it more difficult to form, plus there are a few things that's helping it a little bit. Once we get here into the Bahamas, the upper level wind shear should be more beneficial for its development. So that's something to think about. And of course, there's the dust. I've been waiting here to the end, of course, to talk about this dust that we're dealing with. And that is something that we're going to see continuing to flow off of the coast of Africa. Now, notice this little dip here in the dust where there's a lack of it. that's where we find this particular system right now, or that's struggling for development. And as we move through time, you're going to see that it's able to kind of hold itself in that little pocket. That's going to be key. If it gets too much of this dust kind of wrapped into it a little bit, that's not going to be helpful. We're not going to see a whole lot of development of it. For those folks here in the Houston area, I will point out again that we are expecting to really see another batch of this Saharan dust to come in and really impact us here across the Houston area. Really starting tonight and into tomorrow is when we're going to notice that for the most part. All right, that's going to do it for our tropical update. Glad you've been able to check in with us. We are here every day of hurricane season, and we will be back again tomorrow. I'll expect to see you then.